So just explain to me, listen, I was never a Baker guy, way too turbulent for a marginal player. Deshaun's a much better player, though it does come with a lot of legal, situations here. He's going to be probably suspended. But kind of give me your feel on Cleveland rolling the dice here on somebody that is going to be offensive to a large percentage of the fan base. The contract, Rick, makes him the highest paid player in the league or highest paid quarterback. How does it fall for you as a former GM?
Yeah, first, before we get started, I'd just like to send my condolences out to John Clayton's family. He was a longtime friend in the media, and just recognize him and Pat and the tragedy that they're going through right now. But great human being, great reporter, and what the business is about. But to get into this, Colin, what I'd like to do is just, why don't you put on your ownership hat and let me walk through some of this stuff with you. So you're the owner of the Cleveland Browns, and I've been in some of these meetings inside. So you know the football player, you evaluated the football player. There's no question about his talent on the field. What you're dealing with is what's coming into your building and what you're going to have to deal with, not only from a PR standpoint, but these civil lawsuits, and I don't know enough about it, but they're still pending out there. What direction is that going to go? As an owner, I would ask you, did you talk to our sponsors? And are our sponsors on board with this? Because I've been in meetings where we had to talk through that situation. And is it a possibility some of your sponsors or some of your partners may abandon you because of this signing? The other thing is, I wondered if they, and I'm assuming they did, if they talked to everybody in the organization, especially the females that work in the organization, and how they felt. I understand this is a football business and you're hired to go out there and win games, and making such an aggressive move like this, which I believe is a great move if you didn't have to deal with all those other issues, especially off the field. How are you going to present him to the fans when he comes in on his press conference? How are you going to sell that to the fans? How are you going to do if the potential protesters come out, if they're out there during OTAs or they're out in front of the building? So there's a lot of things that I think needed to be discussed before they pulled this trade. And I'm sure that if you were an owner, would you go through all these things to make sure that everybody's on board with the decision? And you have to do this because, as you know, these trades happen so fast. And once you get going, and it sounded like this came together very quickly, they were out and all of a sudden they were back in, because it sounded like they were willing to make the adjustments to the contract that needed to be made to make them the front runner in this trade. So, but again, you'd have to address all those issues to make sure you were comfortable with that side of it as well.
By the way, I wasn't a Baker fan out of college. I'm not giving up anything for him now. He's expensive. He's got 1 year left. He was reportedly going to hold out on camp. I'm not into it. I want more maturity from a quarterback. I mean, I never thought for a second Dak would hold out. I never thought Dak would hold out. The fact that it comes out today Baker would have held out is like, this is why I was never my kind of guy. Nothing against him personally, but my franchise quarterback, I want something different. What would you give up if you're Seattle for Baker Mayfield? 6th-round pick? What are we looking at?
Yeah, no, I think you're going to have to go back and look through the history. He had 2 very good years. Last year he was hurt. How significant was that injury in his performance? He's been inconsistent through his first 4 years. 2 good, probably 2 not so good seasons. But as you sit there and evaluate the tape, you're not only looking at last year, but you're looking at the whole body of work and what he's done since he's been in the NFL. The other thing is you have to go back and see what you said in your college reports. What was your character? What was a football character? Do you think this guy can come in and lead your team? Me personally, as I was looking at this, first thing I thought is, well, I'm going to miss those commercials, when he's locking up the stadium. He was very good in the commercials.
Yeah.
But those are the things teams are going to have to decide. And also, if you don't do a Baker Mayfield, and I do believe you're potentially, I don't know if they're going to ask for a second-round pick. I don't know if a Garoppolo comes into play, or maybe right now, as you were talking about, Matt Ryan moving potentially. But those are things that they're going to have to work out. I know when the trade went down, I talked to some people that were involved in that trade with the Russell Wilson trade. That was a month process.
Wow.
Getting to the conclusion of that trade.
Wow.
Which I know we'll talk about here in a minute. But I get each team has a value on when they watch these guys, and it's so subjective. Every team looks at it differently. I mean, did the way Carson Wentz, that he played in Indianapolis last year, was that a good deal, or did they overpay in Washington? Well, in Washington's mind, and I'm sure they've watched all the tape, they did their research, they played against him when he was in the division before, that they felt very strongly that this was the guy that's going to lead their franchise, and that's why they made the trade.
Yeah, you said the Russell Wilson deal, so now it's out now. And Russell alluded to it during the press conference. This had been going on for a long time, despite the fact Seattle denied it. My concern was Seattle, because Russell has a no-trade clause, so Seattle doesn't necessarily get everything they want because Russell's telling them, no, yes, I'll go there. That's tough for a GM. I'm not going to get the perfect deal. I thought everything Denver gave up, I thought Denver got the better edge of the deal. That's my takeaway. You?
Yeah, no, I agree. They gave up a lot of draft capital, but if you look, George Payton did a great job. I mean, they used some of the capital that they got from the Von Miller trade.
Yep.
They still have 9 remaining picks in this year's draft.
Yep.
So they're still going to be able to add to their roster, and they got a franchise quarterback that may potentially be a future Hall of Famer. The other thing you have to look at is when you made this trade and you know that organization and that franchise is up for sale, by getting Russell Wilson as your quarterback and into that building, how much did that increase the value of that franchise when they sell the team? And I don't know, I was going to ask you, do you think it's 100 million, 500 million? But now that any potential owner that's going to buy the Denver Broncos, their price probably just went up because of Russell Wilson and the transaction they just made.
Yeah, no, I said this with LeBron and Dan Gilbert. He made $500 million the day he re-signed LeBron James, and I think Russell Wilson, for a $3 billion franchise, is probably worth $300 to $400 million. I think that's realistic. We got a couple of minutes here left, just a couple. I talked to a league executive this weekend that said, losing Davante Adams, he said Green Bay no longer has a number 1 receiver. They don't have a 2 in the building. It's a bunch of 3s and 4s. Rick, you can't Aaron's not going to be playing with 3 rookie wide receivers. I thought that was a huge loss for Green Bay. Your thoughts?
Yeah, but I went through a similar situation with Stephon Diggs, and I don't know all the internal discussions, but Stephon wanted to move on. We were able to trade him and got the draft value that we thought was fair when we traded in the Buffalo Bills. Yeah, and we were very fortunate. We replaced him with Justin Jefferson. Last year, you saw Jamar Chase come in, and what a significant impact that he made for the Cincinnati Bengals. So I know this is a very strong receiver class in this year's draft, and I believe that internally they're not going to have 3 rookie receivers out there, but they feel very strongly, I'm assuming, that they're going to be able to fill that with one of these potential rookies that can be a potential superstar. The other thing, too, is you have to remember Aaron Rodgers is not an ordinary quarterback. Aaron Rodgers is the type of quarterback that elevates a team, and he makes the players better around him. So they feel pretty confident in the receivers that they have. Who knows if they're going to sign another receiver in the secondary market. And plus, I bet they're going to be pretty aggressive trying to fill that position during the draft. Yeah, Amari Rodgers, they drafted him last year, a slot from Clemson. So if he becomes a 2, Randall Cobb's your 3 or your 4, you cross your fingers in the draft. Rick Spielman, former Viking GM, fascinating day ahead. Many speculating Matt Ryan, Baker Mayfield. We could have moves today. Rick, as always, good luck to you in your pursuits. I'll keep them private right now of the jobs you're looking at. We wish you the best. Okay, thank you. Thanks for having me on again today. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.